Hey guys, today we're going to be working on this Cabela's generator. It's actually made by Champion Power Equipment. Champion Power here, that's what brand the engine is. But it's a 4,000 watt, well 3,500 watt generator. It's 220 and 120 obviously. And it's got electric start and it appears to be working. I had it cranking over. This is the engine, it's a 196 cc. It appears to be a electronic choke on it, so that's probably part of the problem too. Said it won't run unless the choke's worn full. So this is not mine. I'm working on it for someone else, and a little bit of a trade deal. Give me a 30-gallon air compressor for fixing this. It needs some work too, so pretty even trade. Also going to be changing the oil in this, but I'm not sure how old this is. Obviously it's been kept outside. Bad thing is, got a full tank of gas, but it's not old, but it's definitely not new. And it should run on it, I would think, but it is a little old. So we may end up having to drain some out and put some fresh in, just to kind of liven it up a little bit. I don't know if it's got stabilizer in it or not, but I'll get you on the tripod and we'll just go ahead and try to start and mess with it and see what it'll do. Just so we know. I do know gas was leaking out when it was on. When the fuel valve was on, it was leaking out. I don't know if the fuel line's rotted or if the float was just stuck from moving it. Sometimes that happens. I'd imagine this would be a pretty quiet generator. It's got a really big muffler on it. The muffler's almost as big as the generator head on it. Give a little shot of carburetor there. So it is leaking. So let's go ahead and shut the fuel off. And see another drip there. I'll take some of this off and we'll look at it and see exactly what we need. Fairly simple carburetor. Looks very similar to a Predator 212 carburetor, but it does have this different choke. So you flip this lever over like this and it's automatic pull off is all it is. Nothing special going on. Hopefully, worst case scenario, we'll just buy a new carburetor for it, but hopefully we can take this apart, maybe soak it and clean it and get her up and going again. So let me take this air box part of it off, then we'll look at it before we pull the actual carburetor. This has a fairly simple governor linkage. Just run from here over to the throttle, and you get that spring on there, and obviously the choke's built in. So, and I'm going to wait to change the oil until I actually get it running, so I can get it good and warm and get all the oil out and any dirt and sludge or anything. So let's look at it here in a second. So you get this piece here, it bolts on. You also got a bracket here coming off a motor mount. It's screwed into the back with a little bolt. And this is a plate that goes on here. It's got 4 screws. And the filter goes in there and snaps in. Just gets you to the actual carburetor. I gotta look and see how this wire comes loose. Your cable, whatever it is. Go from there, and the fuel line hookup's right here. Fuel line, it's okay, but it'll probably tear, so we might end up having to change that too. No big deal. I might actually put a inline fuel filter on it too. Alright, so I was trying to just pull it off and unhook this later, but it just stuck one with the gasket on there, so that was kind of holding that on there. This little teeny tiny spring fell out, and the only place I see it goes be right there for that choke. That's probably what springs this back to disable the choke or whatever. So hopefully we can get all that working right. But here's the actual carburetor. I do recommend taking your drain plug out first, getting rid of the residual gas that's in it before you take it apart. It will spill out. Not too worried about it in this case. Not as bad as I was expecting. You gotta get all this cleaned out first. We're gonna need a new gasket. Hopefully Predator 212 parts will work, because I happen to have some of that on hand. That's probably what was leaking, and I figured the needle valve was probably stuck. So let's take this apart as much as we can. Pull this pin out. Floating needle valve. Set this here. There's also a jet inside here. You see it, looks like a straight screwdriver fits it. Recommend having a tool like this. This is actually a Briggs & Stratton carburetor tool, or a really good wide thick tip screwdriver bit. Get in there, but bad about stripping that, and as tight as this one was, it probably would have with a regular screwdriver. Probably almost did just now with this. Alright, so here's usually the biggest problem. You can't see through this. Barely can. It looks like it's clean on the camera, but it's actually gummed up inside, and it's just shining through that. Most of the time, if this is clean, it'll fire right up. So I'm gonna spray everything off with carburetor cleaner. If it gives me any trouble, we'll just soak it. I might honestly do that anyway. I got gaskets for this if it's the same as a 212, which it should be. It's a very similar carburetor. So I'll spray it off, get all the big dirt off, then we'll just soak it for a little bit. So I've had this for probably 5, 6, 8 years, something like that. This is probably only the 4th carburetor I've ever cleaned in it. I'm just going to let that soak for 10-15 minutes, then clean it with water and spray it off, and clean it again with regular carburetor cleaner, and go from there. Hopefully it'll take care of the problem. I like to move them around like this just to get all this stuff flowing. You don't want to put like the plastic part in it. I was kind of nervous about putting it in with that throttle lever there, but it'll probably be alright. I ain't gonna leave it in there real long. So I always like to try to put the parts on something like this that I know is clean. So the Predator 212 gasket will fit it. Makes everything look almost new. I got most of what I could out of it, but a little bit's gonna be alright. You're just not gonna be able to get all of it out. I cleaned the needle valve and the float with WD-40 instead of carburetor cleaner, just to keep from messing up the rubber tip on there. So we gotta make sure that this is gonna work. So right now you should not be able to blow through this. Just put your little hose on here. It's sealed. And now you should be able to. So appears to be working. Also, while we're doing this, I'm draining some of the old gas out of the gas tank to put a little fresh in there to hopefully get it running a little bit smoother. And make sure it just don't go cross-threaded. Just barely got to snug it. Bowl gasket. This is the bolt that goes in here. Also really need to clean the end of that off. I thought I did. I forgot. This is a 10mm. It fits this, and just barely got to snug this. And don't forget to put your drain plug back in too. Alright, so should be good as a new carburetor. Let's get ready to put it back on. Alright, so I'm putting the carburetor back on. And this bracket for the choke pull off goes on here. If you look right in the center of the screen, a little spring on the black piece of plastic, there's a little peg right there, and that spring sits in there. Just about gave up on trying to figure it out, and finally just happened to see it. So other than that, it's a pretty standard installation. I am going to put a inline filter here just to help with any dirt that might come out of the tank or anything. Also drained approximately a gallon, maybe a little over a gallon out of this, and topped it off with fresh. So hopefully That'll should make a big difference on it, I would hope. So let me finish everything else here. We'll look at it. And again, the linkage just pops in there. I gotta hook that little spring up, and we'll be ready. Alright, so here it is, the fuel filter added to it. Go ahead and turn it on. Make sure nothing's going to leak. And we should be ready for a test start after I put the air filter back in it. This should start fairly easy. I like it being electric start, but it's also pull start too. That way if the battery's dead in the middle of winter, you can just pull start it too. Well, I don't see nothing leaking, so let me go ahead and put the air filter back in. Alright, fuel's on. I'll make sure I got the choke set right. Set the choke. So 90% of the time with these carburetors, you can get by with just cleaning the jet and everything. But this is one of the rare ones where it still didn't want to run right unless the choke was partially on. So I took out the low side part because it acted like it just wasn't getting idle, like on getting fuel on the low side. So if you pop this little piece out here after removing your idle speed adjustment screw, which is not needed anyway on a generator, which we'll put it back. But you get this little piece here. This is actually the low side jet. And this was completely clogged up. So I took a wire out of a wire brush and kept working with it and finally got it to pop through and blew some carburetor cleaner down through here. Now I'm going to put it back together again. I even opened up the jet just a little bit too with the files. Not a whole lot, but open up a little bit, and if for some reason it's too much now, we got the other Predator jets we can put in there too. So let's just see what happens. Alright, got it all back together. Like I said, I cleaned that idle side. Hopefully that'll work. Let's see what happens. Alright guys, I think we got it that time, running smooth as can be. Took that load good, didn't surge or miss or anything. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the oil draining out. We'll look at, see how bad the oil is here in a second. So this has an interesting feature. It's got a little hose coming off the drain plug here. And it was stuck up here on this bracket right here. And it's the drain hose for the oil. Not very much coming out. Might just be the way it's sitting, I don't know. But hopefully there's more in there than that. Alright, so we got way more coming out now. I sealed it up. Put a 2x4 underneath that wheel. Did it like that, the way it's got a little bit of a angle to make that side of the engine the lowest point. So I'm going to talk for just a minute on the oil on this. I always use Valvoline oil. This is SAE 30. I do recommend a 10W30 in the generators just because they're, you know, obviously there's potential to be used at any time of the year. So you want that oil flowing when it's cold. So use a good 10W30 oil. This ain't what I would have picked out. I'm not saying it's a bad oil. It's just I'm a valve guy, always have been. So let me measure it out and see how much it's gonna take. Alright guys, we'll call it a successful fix. A little bit of a problem with that carburetor, but finally got around it, got her going. So I'll run the gas out of it and should be good to go. So questions or comments or similar videos or anything you'd like to see, just let me know and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thanks for watching guys, catch you later.